Hello, this is Stories Through Scrapbook, a creative project of the Drilla Club by Katie Chou.
Eesha Gundam,
and Sarayu, Bellary.
Through this project, we wanted to dissect the characters and relationships through one central message. It's that every daughter is the result of all the women who came before her. Whether good or bad, these memories and stories are woven into your character. Part 1, Generational Trauma.
For our first spread, we have generational trauma, and we really want to delve deep into two characters, which are June and Lena St. Clair. So to start off, we have June, and her cultural and generational trauma really stems from the fact that her mother has unresolved trauma and takes it out on her daughter. Her mother loses 2 twin babies when she's in China, and they never talk about these children ever again. And so her mother takes out these expectations that she has for her twin daughters on June herself, claiming that June is supposed to be the essence of the other two. June feels the weight of these expectations, which leads to her sort of drifting from her mother. This comes from the fact that her mother forced her to learn piano growing up, which June never really was passionate about. But when she finally does meet her twin sisters, they all come together and say, "Mama, Mama." They all murmur this together as if she, their mother, is among them. This adds on to our broader theme, because even though their mother Soo-yeon is not actually there, you can see her in June and the twin sisters. For our second character, we are here to analyze Lena St. Clair. So this also is another case of the mother having unresolved trauma, which leads to the daughter feeling this trait in herself. When Ying first migrates to San Francisco, she comes with a man who doesn't actually understand China. The only person who can understand Ying is her daughter Lena St. Clair, and this leads to this feeling and this idea of Ying not actually having a voice in the marriage. This is reflected in Lena when she herself gets into a marriage with a man named Harold. And Harold constantly speaks up for her, never gives her the opportunities that she deserves, and he splits everything equally down the middle. But Lena succumbs to this behavior because she feels as if she is so lucky that Harold actually wants to marry her. Ying is finally able to break this cycle of generational trauma by coming to the conclusion that her daughter is in a loveless marriage and she is passive, unwilling to speak up for herself in this marriage. Lena, by recognizing this pattern of passiveness and not speaking up for yourself in her own marriage that is reflected in her mother's marriage, is an example of the broader theme of the fact that you are an extension and a patchwork of the woman who came before you.
Part 2, Chinese versus American views on certain things. So in this book, Waverly and Lindo's relationship has really been intriguing to me personally, because it shows the dilemma of every immigrant Chinese mother, really. You can see on one hand that she teaches Waverly to leap to opportunities, to fight. Kind of in America, if you're born poor, you don't have to stay poor. You speak up for your voice, and that's how Waverly became this fierce woman who's not very empathetic, and she kind of just does things on her own and doesn't really care about others. And this is great because it's helped her accomplish a lot of things in life. But also we see that Lindo kind of feels bad because that's not what Chinese people are supposed to do. They're supposed to have humility, they're supposed to be respectful. She says here to not show your own thoughts, to pursue feelings behind your face so you can take advantage of hidden opportunities. And she acknowledges that Waverly isn't like this. You don't even have to open your mouth. They really know that you're an outsider. So here we have this scale kind of like of Chinese ways, American ways, and kind of the sacrifice Lindo makes and sees on her daughter.
Part 3 is the idea of discontinued ethnic identities. And this is particularly evident in the characters of June and Lena. So for June, following the passing of Soo-yeon, June kind of grapples with her Chinese heritage a lot. Her inability to play mahjong or speak fluent Mandarin highlights this cultural gap, and she really feels like disconnected. Like she feels bad that she doesn't know how to play mahjong, and the mahjong that she does know how to play is like the Jewish version. She's kind of meant like kind of scold her like, oh, your mother didn't teach you anything? And they say that over here. Apart from this, the jade pendant that she gets from her mother also kind of sort of symbolizes the cultural drift between the American and Chinese perspectives. June views the pendant as really like boring, like really gaudy in a way, and then like her mother kind of views the pendant as something to like signify her connection and belief in her. And then that kind of, in the beginning, June like really didn't understand this. We go into Lena. Lena, she faces a lot of challenges maintaining her ethnic identity as a result of her kind of having to be the translator for her family. So she has to translate for her mom to her dad. In a lot of these situations, and one situation in particular when baby sibling was born, Lena deliberately misinterprets this moment to her dad because she struggles to convey the depth of her mother's feelings, because she kind of says like, oh, how could I tell him that she was crazy? This kind of shows how the culture was really like separated from her American side, which is her father, and then her mother's side, which is her Chinese culture. In these two characters, we see that they have two kind of dual sides, and the side that they're kind of grappling their ethnic identities from their mom's side kind of shows how they are a direct correlation from their mother. They look Chinese and they feel Chinese, and they're kind of like exploring their identities within that.
Finally, part 4. Your mother has your best interest at heart, despite sometimes they don't really show it and their behavior is a little uncalled for. Our first example is Anmei and Rose, and this is really brought to spotlight when Rose's marriage is literally falling and crumbling apart because Ted treats her horribly. But Anmei's mother's response is kind of questionable. She kind of tells Anmei to, hey, just fix it, speak up for yourself, and causing Rose to feel very unheard of. She literally tells her mom to stop telling me to fix my marriage because it's unfixable. So at face value, it kind of seems that Anmei isn't really listening to her daughter's needs. But when we actually dive into it, it's more that she wants her daughter to speak up for herself. She wants her daughter to have wood. So even though Anmei was really harsh in her self-narration, we find out that at the end of the day, she still has her daughter's best interest at heart. Relating back to our theme of how our mothers and our grandmothers are all part of us, is when we see here, Anmei says that because they're all girls, they're born in the same way. She came out the same way because she was born into me and she was born a girl, and I was born to my mother and I was also born a girl. All of us like stairs, one step after another, going up and down, but all going in the same way, showing that women have these silent struggles, and she decides that she needs to teach her daughter how to speak up for herself. Now we're on to the last spread of the day, which is Anmei and her mother's relationships. Let's start with when the second wife of the story is kind of using Anmei. She kind of wants Anmei to be part of her arsenal. And then Anmei's mother, which is fourth wife, a lot less significant, with a lot less power, she realizes that the only way for her daughter to stop being in this abusive cycle was to kill herself in order to put her spirits to Anmei. This really shows that her mother's unconditional love is translated into a way of helping Anmei become this strong tiger that finds her own wood in her own element. And back to our theme, that your mother's story woven into your character and really helps you become the person you are today.
Thank you all for watching this episode of Stories Through Scrapbooks,
where we dissected the novel Joy Luck Club.
And I know we will meet again very soon.
Our first social commentary for the book is the idea that immigrants are often silenced and unable to express their own heritages in their new countries. Obviously, we see this a lot in the book, but one modern day idea we have is the idea that there exist many employment prejudices towards immigrants and people moving from other countries into the US due to their accents or different cultural norms that they may have, which inhibits on their ability to actually get a job in the United States.
Our next social commentary is the idea that first-gen American teens lack interest in their ethnic identities due to assimilation desires. And this concept is still extremely relevant in our modern-day society through the prevalence of dying languages. And we can especially see this through our schools, where even in Plato West, where languages like AP French, AP Chinese, and AP German are being offered less and less.
Our last social commentary is that women are often criticized as too fierce or too opinionated, even though they're just expressing themselves. One example would be Waverly, and in the modern world, we see politician women getting criticism, such as Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama, when their counterparts are politicians that are very opinionated. Male politicians seem to don't get this type of criticism of being too fierce.